The docking bay smelled like burned oil and old metal, and nobody ever went there if they did not have to. Bay 47 on Orion 9 Transit Hub was the kind of place that collected things nobody wanted. Broken crates, loose cargo netting, machinery that was too old to use and too expensive to throw away. The lights in the far corner had been flickering for 6 months. Nobody had fixed them because nobody cared about Bay 47. Rin Calloway cared about his missing crate of stabilizer parts, which was why he was the only human in the bay at the end of a 12-hour shift, walking between towers of stacked containers with a scanner in one hand and a cold cup of coffee in the other. He found the crate. He also found the sound. It was small, high and tight, like something trying very hard not to cry and failing. Rin stopped walking. He tilted his head. The sound came from behind a pile of netting that had slid off a broken rack and pooled on the floor like a tangled heap of rope. He set the coffee down. He walked over slowly, not fast, not loud. He crouched at the edge of the netting and looked in. There was a creature inside. It was about the size of a large house cat. Its scales were gold, not yellow, not bronze, but the deep warm gold of late afternoon sun on still water. Its wings were pale, almost white, folded tight against its body the way wings fold when something is frightened. One of them was caught in the netting. Not badly, not broken, but caught enough that pulling would only make it worse. It looked at him with amber eyes the size of coins and made the sound again. Rin did not call security. He did not reach for his comm. He did not stand up and back away, which is what most people on the hub would have done, because most people on the hub knew that draconic creatures were listed as Tier 7 fauna, and that interacting with them without a license was technically 6 kinds of illegal. Rin sat down on the floor. He sat down cross-legged on the dirty bay floor, put his scanner on his knee, and looked at the small gold creature without moving. He did not speak yet. He just let it look at him. He breathed slowly and kept his hands still and waited. His grandfather had taught him that. You do not rush a frightened animal. You do not reach for it. You make yourself small and quiet, and you let it decide that you are not a threat. You wait as long as it takes. It took about 4 minutes. The creature stopped making the tight, high sound. Its wings relaxed a fraction. It blinked at him, slow and careful. Then Rin spoke. "Hey," he said, quietly, like talking to someone sleeping in the next room. "You are okay. You are stuck, but it is not bad. I can get you out of that, but I need you to stay still. Can you stay still for me?" The creature stared at him. "I will take that as a yes," Rin said. He moved one hand, slowly, into the netting, found the loop around the pale wing, worked it loose with 2 fingers, patient, not pulling. The creature watched his hand the whole time and did not move. When the wing came free, it gave one small flap and then folded again, and the creature looked at him like it was deciding something. Then it walked across the floor and climbed onto his boot. It curled up there with its tail over its own nose and closed its eyes. Rin looked down at it for a long moment. Then a short, quiet laugh came out of him. Not a big laugh. Just the sound a person makes when something genuinely surprises them, and the surprise is good. He did not know that Soru was watching from the corridor door. Soru was a Brevian, 4-eyed, with the flat, segmented face of his species and the iridescent green shoulder markings that meant he was a senior dock worker on the night rotation. He had come to Bay 47 to find out what was taking the human cargo tech so long. He had stood in the corridor doorway for the last 3 minutes. He had watched all of it. He stood there now watching a human sit on a dirty floor with a gold dragon asleep on his boot, and his upper 2 eyes blinked slowly. He reached for his personal comm. He was not sure why. He just felt like someone else needed to see this. He recorded 40 seconds of it, the human sitting still, the dragon sleeping, the bad lights flickering in the corner, and then he forwarded it to his shift partner with no caption at all. Rin carefully reached into his chest pocket without waking the creature and pulled out a small notebook. Opened it to the first blank page. Wrote the date. Wrote, gold scales. White wings. Kitten-sized. Bay 47. Found in netting. Came to me on its own. Taking it to medical. Then he pulled his spare jacket from his bag, wrapped the creature gently without waking it, and stood up. He had paperwork to do. He was already thinking about the forms. Behind him, in the corridor, Soru's message reached his shift partner. His shift partner sent it to 3 others. Within the hour, it had left the hub on 6 different outgoing comm relays, riding along with cargo manifests and personal letters and routine station broadcasts. heading out into the dark in all directions. Nobody had added a caption yet. The clip was just 40 seconds of a human on a dirty floor and a small gold dragon asleep on his boot. It was enough. The station medical officer, a tall Dorothy named Dr. Olathe, had never examined a draconic creature in her life. She said so plainly, the way Dorothy always said things, directly, without apology. "I have no data on this species," she said, looking at the small gold creature sitting on the examination table. "No nutritional baseline. No developmental chart. No health markers." "I know," Rin said. He was already writing in his notebook. "You are writing in a notebook," Olathe said, as if she needed to confirm this with her own ears. "I write things down," Rin said. "It helps me think." Olathe watched him for a moment with her wide gray eyes. Then she looked back at the creature. The creature was looking at her with a calm and total attention that made Olathe feel, slightly uncomfortably, like she was the one being examined. "She appears healthy," Olathe said carefully. "Her breathing is normal. No visible wounds. The wing was not injured by the netting." She paused. "I said she. I do not actually know." "She," Rin agreed. He did not know why. It simply seemed correct, and the creature did not argue. He filed the paperwork that night. All of it. The rescued fauna form, the temporary housing declaration, the non-standard biological resident notification, and the request for exemption from the Tier 7 fauna handling restriction, which was 12 pages long and required a written justification of no fewer than 500 words. Rin wrote 800. He cited 3 separate station statutes. He cross-referenced the rescue circumstances. He attached Olathe's medical notes. He submitted it at midnight and went to sleep on his bunk with the creature curled up on the pillow above his head, warm as a hearthstone, smelling faintly of copper and sunlight. 3 days later, the station sent him back a rejection form. He read it. Then he went to the administrative office in person and asked to speak to someone. They sent him to a different office. That office sent him to a third. The third office told him the matter was under review and gave him another form to fill out. He filled it out in the chair in the waiting room and handed it back before he left. He did this every 2 days, politely, without raising his voice. On the 6th visit, the administrator at the desk stopped pretending to look at her screen and just stared at him. "You are going to keep coming back," she said. "Yes," Rin said pleasantly. She stamped a temporary permit and slid it across the desk. He named her on the 7th day. He had been watching her in the morning light that came through the small viewport in his quarters. The station lights were warm, and she sat in the beam of them with her eyes half closed, her gold scales catching the color until she looked like something made of actual sun. He had been trying out names in his head for a week, running through them the way you run through options when none of them are quite right. Then the light shifted and her scales went from gold to something richer, something deeper, and he thought of the word his grandmother used for the color of late-day sun. "Solen." Old word. Warm word. "Solen," he said aloud, testing it. The creature opened her eyes and looked at him. "Sol," he said. She blinked once, slow and deliberate, and then went back to sitting in the light. That was that. He built the routine carefully. Same time for feeding every morning, same bowl, same spot on the floor. Same low voice when she was restless at night. Not commanding, not loud, just present. He learned, through trial and careful notes, that she did not like sudden movement near her head, but was fine with it near her tail. That she would follow him through the corridors if he walked slowly, but would stop and refuse to move if he rushed. That she responded to a 2-finger scratch behind the left ear ridge by closing her eyes completely, and that this was apparently the highest possible endorsement she could give anything. Soru started stopping by, not officially, just leaning in the doorway of the corridor when Rin did the morning feeding, watching. His upper eyes tracked everything with the careful attention of someone building a theory. "She is bigger," Soru said one morning. He had been watching for 9 days. "A little," Rin agreed. He was kneeling on the floor with the bowl. Sol was eating with total focus, the way she did everything. "How do you know how to do this?" Soru asked. Rin looked up. "Do what?" Soru gestured at all of it. The floor, the bowl, the low voice, the waiting. Rin thought about it. "My grandfather had dogs," he said. "And before that, his grandfather had horses. Humans have been doing this a long time. You figure out what the animal needs. You show up the same way every day. You don't make it guess what you are." Soru was quiet. His lower two eyes had gone slightly unfocused, which in Brevians meant they were thinking hard about something. I am going to tell you something, Soru said. Okay, said Rin. That clip I recorded. In Bay 47. Soru paused. It is in 14 star systems now. Rin looked at him. What clip? But Sol had finished eating and was head-butting his knee to get his attention, so he looked back down, and the question got lost. 14 star systems. Nobody on any of them knew his name yet, but they had all watched 40 seconds of a man on a floor, and they had all felt something they did not quite have a word for, and they had all forwarded it to someone else. The notebook was on page 11 now. He was going to need a second one soon. Inspector Weil arrived on a Tuesday. Rin knew he was coming because the station sent a notice the night before, formal and cold, informing him that a Fauna Authority representative would be conducting a review of the unauthorized draconic resident, currently housed in Unit 14C, and that removal was likely pending inspection. Rin read the notice. Then he went to the shelf where he kept his files. He had a binder. It was a physical binder, the kind you could only get from Earth supply ships, thick cardstock cover, metal rings, the entire thing about 3 inches deep. He had been filling it since the first day. Nutritional logs, health notes from Olathe, behavioral records, copies of every form he had submitted and every response he had received, copies of the 3 station statutes he had cited and the relevant subsections highlighted in 2 colors. A written summary of the rescue circumstances with a hand-drawn map of Bay 47 showing the exact position of the netting. He had also printed and included the Galactic Fauna Authority's own published guidelines on Tier 7 fauna exceptions, with the applicable passages underlined. He put the binder under his arm and went to the administrative waiting room at the scheduled time, and he sat down, and Sol sat beside him on the bench and watched the door. Inspector Weil was a Shinari. His species was reptilian, long-necked, with flat pale eyes and the kind of precise manner that came from spending 30 years enforcing rules. He walked in, looked at Rin, looked at Sol, and pulled out his own document pad. You are the registered temporary keeper, Weil said. Yes, Rin said. The creature is currently unlicensed under Interspecies Fauna Code 7 Alpha. The temporary permit is on page 4, Rin said, and opened the binder and held it out. Weil took it. He looked at page 4. He turned to page 5. He kept going. He kept going for a while. The waiting room was quiet. There was one other person there, a young Kaylee who had come about a completely different matter and was now just sitting very still, watching, because something about the situation made her feel like she should not move. She had her comm out. She had started recording about 2 minutes in, when Weil hit page 12 and had not spoken yet. On page 18, Weil stopped. He looked up at Rin. This is a nutritional log, he said. Yes, Rin said. Feeding times, quantities, behavioral notes post-feeding. I cross-referenced it with Olathe's health assessments on page 22. Weil looked back at the binder. Sol leaned over and sniffed the open page. Then she leaned back and looked at Weil with calm amber eyes. That is the nutritional log she is looking at, Rin said. She is in good health. Weil closed the binder. He was quiet for 4 seconds. The Kaylee in the corner was holding her breath. The comm was still recording. Weil put the binder on the desk and reached for his stamp. He stamped the updated permit form. He filled in the dates. He slid it across to Rin. Keep the records current, Weil said. I will, Rin said. Weil picked up his document pad and left. He did not look at Sol again, which was probably wise, because Sol was still looking at him. Rin tucked the permit into the front pocket of the binder. He looked at Sol. Good, he said quietly. Sol flicked her tail and jumped off the bench and headed for the door, done with the whole business. The Kaylee in the corner stopped the recording. She stared at her screen. The clip was 53 seconds. It showed Weil going silent over a paper binder for 2 minutes, Sol sniffing a nutritional log, and a human saying 4 words in the flattest, most matter-of-fact voice she had ever heard. She posted it in 2 seconds flat. By that evening it had 30 million views. By the following morning it had passed 100 million. Automated translation tagged it into 67 languages, and the clip jumped across relay networks faster than the station's own news feed. The caption that spread with it, added by someone in the 3rd hour, translated differently by different systems, but always meaning roughly the same thing, was, the human brought paperwork to a government official. For a dragon. and 1. 3 things happened at the same time after that. The first was that alien pet owners across 9 systems began asking, loudly and publicly, what exactly the human had done with that creature and whether it was a known method or something he had invented. The second was that a young Bureaucracy academic named Fess posted a long public thread titled, "I tried the human's approach on my bond creature for 30 days. Results attached." The bond creature in question, a notoriously aggressive tunnel leaper that had bitten 2 previous handlers, was pictured in the final image lying peacefully across Fess's feet. The thread had 4 million responses before midnight. The third was that Dr. Olathe knocked on Rin's door and showed him his comm screen and said, "I think you should look at this." Rin looked. He scrolled. He kept scrolling. "I don't understand," he said. "You are famous," Olathe said. Rin looked at Sol, who was chewing on the corner of the notebook he had left on the floor. "I filled out some forms," he said. "Yes," said Olathe. "That is the part that is breaking them." He did not fully believe her. He went to his shift the next morning, did his work, came home, made Sol's dinner at the same time. His comm had 4,000 new messages. He did not read them yet. Sol was already asleep on the pillow above his head, warm as sunlight, and morning came early. Rin read the messages on a rest day, because that was the only day he had time. He sat at the small table in his quarters with a cup of coffee and his comm screen, and he read. Sol sat on the table beside him and occasionally pushed the comm with her nose, which he ignored. He read for 2 hours. Then he got up, refilled the coffee, sat back down, and kept reading. After a while he started reading things aloud, because Sol was clearly listening and it helped him process. "This one is from a Brevian family on Meru Station," he said. "They have a nest beast. It used to make noise from first light until they fed it. They started doing a consistent morning routine. Same voice, same time, same order, and after 2 weeks it stopped waking them up early." He paused. "They are calling it the Callaway method." Sol looked at him. "I don't have a method," he said. He read the next one. A Shanari woman whose domestic lizard bird had refused to let anyone but her touch it for 6 years. She had started sitting near it on the floor every day, not reaching, not making noise, just being there. The lizard bird had walked onto her husband's hand in the 3rd week. She says, and I am reading this directly, "I have spent 60 years being told my bond creature was simply aggressive. It took a human sitting on a dirty floor to show me what I was missing." He put the comm down and looked at the ceiling. Sol headbutted his arm. "I sat on a floor," he said to her. "I waited. That's it. That's what they are all writing about. Sitting on a floor and waiting." Sol made a small sound. It was the sound she made when she felt he was failing to understand something obvious. The formal invitation from the Galactic Interspecies Behavioral Institute arrived the following week. Dr. Olathe brought it to him personally, which was how he knew it was serious, because Olathe did not usually make house calls. "They want you to come to Varesh," she said. "They want to study what you do." "I don't do anything," Rin said. "Rin," Olathe said, with the patience of someone who had been having this conversation for 2 weeks. "There are currently 47 published posts on the galactic stream from different species, on different planets, documenting what happens when they imitate you. There is a peer-reviewed preliminary paper. The paper is titled Emotional Regulation as Interspecies Communication. It has been downloaded 600,000 times. Rin stared at her. "There are children," she continued, "making videos of themselves sitting cross-legged on floors near frightened animals. They are calling the position doing a Rin. It is a verb now." He looked at Sol. Sol looked back at him without any visible sympathy. He went to Varesh. The institute was a large building on a quiet planet, full of calm people who studied the behavior of creatures, and they received him with an excitement that he found slightly alarming. He was given a room, a welcome packet, and a schedule of meetings. Sol was given a space in the institute's open habitat area, which she inspected carefully, decided was acceptable, and then claimed entirely within the first afternoon. The meeting with the institute's lead researchers was the one that stayed with him. There were 6 of them, Dorothy, Kaylee, 1 Brevian, 1 species he did not recognize with 4 arms and bright copper skin. They had screens full of data. They had charts. They had the 40-second clip and the 53-second clip and 47 other clips of other species imitating him, laid out in a grid. He sat with his notebook on his knee and tried. "You stay calm," he said, "because if you are not calm, The animal is not calm. They read you. They are watching everything you do, all the time, and they make their decisions about whether you are safe based on what they see. So you have to actually be calm, not just pretend. He looked at his notes. You are consistent. Same time, same voice, same routine. So they always know what is coming and nothing is a surprise. Surprises are threatening. Predictability is safe. He paused. And you do not make them come to you. You make it possible for them to come to you. You remove the reason not to. And then you wait. The room was quiet. The Brevian researcher, whose name was Addo, said slowly, most species use dominance display or loud warning calls to manage non-bonded fauna. The concept of making yourself non-threatening to something dangerous. We have been doing it a long time, Rin said. Humans domesticated wolves, horses, big animals that could have killed us. We just kept deciding to figure it out instead of giving up. He thought about it. I think we got very good at reading things that could not talk to us, and maybe at making them feel like we were worth trusting. Nobody said anything for a moment. Then Sol walked into the room from the habitat corridor, crossed to Rin's chair, and lay down on his feet. She had clearly decided the meeting had gone on long enough without her. The four-armed researcher was staring. She just came in. She does that, Rin said. She likes to know where I am. She walked past 6 researchers and a closed zone marker to get to you. I know. We are going to talk about that later. He looked down at Sol. She had already closed her eyes. At the back of the room, a junior researcher was recording, not for publication, just because he felt, the way Soru had felt in Bay 47, that someone else needed to see this. He sent it to his mother that night. His mother sent it to 8 people. By morning it was everywhere again. It was just a human in a meeting room with his dragon on his feet, talking about waiting. That was all. And somehow that was the thing the galaxy could not stop watching. 1 year after Bay 47, Sol was the size of a large horse. Not a tall horse. She was long and low to the ground the way draconic creatures were, with a neck that moved like water and wings that, when she spread them, blocked the light from 2 full corridors at once. Her gold scales had deepened over the year, richer now, less like new coin and more like old treasure. Her ivory wings had grown stronger and the leading edges had gone slightly amber, the way things do when they spend a lot of time in the sun. She still fit in Rin's quarters. Just barely. She had to fold herself in a specific way to manage the corner, and her tail often blocked the door, which was a problem for anyone other than Rin trying to get in or out. Nobody came by uninvited anymore. The riding had not been planned. It started 6 months in, when Rin had been trying to reach a high storage shelf, and Sol had simply lowered her shoulder and waited. He had stared at her for a moment. She had looked at him with the expression she used when she felt he was being slow about something obvious. He had climbed up. He had reached the shelf. After that, she would lower her shoulder when he needed to reach something high, when he looked tired at the end of a long shift, and eventually, just when she felt like it. He never asked her. She never waited to be asked. It was a decision she had made, the way she made all her decisions, quietly, completely, without consulting anyone. His notebook, the one he had started in Bay 47 on the first night, had become a published book. He had not meant for that to happen either. Dr. Olathe had asked him, at the end of the Varesh visit, if he would write down everything he knew. He had written it the way he always wrote things, plain, direct, in simple words, with examples. He had sent it to the Institute expecting them to use it internally. They had published it. On Patience and Presence, Notes from an Accidental Dragon Father, had been in print for 4 months. It had been translated into 41 languages. The Institute had sent him a royalty statement that he had read 3 times because the number on it did not seem real. He had put it on the shelf next to his spare notebooks and gone to his cargo shift. He still worked cargo shifts. He had thought about that, whether he should stop, whether the book changed something about what his life was supposed to look like, and had decided it did not. The work was good. He understood it. Sol came with him now, which had required a separate permit and assigned behavioral assurance, both of which he had handled without difficulty. The other dock workers had been nervous about Sol for approximately 1 week. Then she had saved a Brevian loader from a falling crate by simply stepping in front of it, and after that they brought her food. Soru had been smug about all of it from the beginning. He had framed the original 40-second clip and hung it in his quarters. He told anyone who would listen that he had been there first. The message from Inspector Weil arrived on a quiet afternoon. It was formal, as everything from Weil was, but there was something underneath the formal words that felt like effort, like a person trying to say something they were not used to saying. He was coming to the hub for a conference. He would like to stop by, if that was acceptable. He had something he wanted to deliver in person. Rin wrote back, "Yes, come by." Weil arrived 2 days later, precise as ever, his document pad under one arm. He stopped in the corridor doorway when he saw Sol, who was taking up most of the floor space, and he stood very still. Sol opened one eye, looked at him, made her assessment. Then she put her head back down. Weil came in. He reached into his bag and produced a framed document. He held it out to Rin. It was Sol's original permit, the first one from the first visit. Weil had stamped it, framed it, and written along the bottom margin in neat small letters. First issued without adequate consideration of the evidence. Corrected. W. Rin took it. He looked at it for a moment. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "No," Weil agreed. "I wanted to." Rin put out his hand. Weil looked at it, then shook it, with the formal grip of a Shinari who had learned the gesture from a guide but was trying sincerely. Sol lifted her head and sniffed Weil's collar with great thoroughness. Weil stood very, very still. Then Sol made the small rumbling sound that meant acceptable and put her head down again. Weil exhaled. "Does that mean she approves of me?" he asked. "It means you pass," Rin said. "She has standards." He hung the framed permit on the wall next to the shelf with the royalty statement and the spare notebooks. That evening, sitting at the table after Weil had gone, Rin found the message from Yeti. She was young. He could tell from the writing, simple and direct, no formal style. She lived on a small moon in the Brevian outer system. She had read the book. She had tried the approach with a wounded sky ray that had been stranded near her settlement. The sky ray had healed. It had gone back to the open sky. But every season when the migrations came through, one sky ray broke from the group and came low over her settlement, close enough to see, and then turned and rejoined the others. She thought it was the same one. She was not certain, but she wrote, "How did you know it would work? How do you know when to keep trying?" Rin read the message. He read it again. He picked up a notebook, a new one, the current one, and turned it over in his hands. Then he set it down and began to write his reply. The letter took him 3 drafts. Not because he did not know what to say. He knew right away what he wanted to say. The trouble was that every time he wrote it, it came out too long, or too complicated, or like something a person writes when they want to sound like they know things. He threw those out. The 3rd draft was short. He wrote it by hand in the notebook, then transferred it to his comm and sent it. It said, "I did not know it would work. I just thought. It is scared, and it did not ask to be here, and it deserved someone who was not afraid of it. So I tried to be that person. I am not sure if that is a skill or just a decision. Maybe it is the same thing. You kept going back to check on it. You gave it time. You let it leave when it needed to leave. That is the whole thing. That is all of it. I do not think you need me to tell you how to do it. You already did it. Rin." He sent it and went to make dinner. Sol had been watching him from the corner of the room with the patient attention she brought to anything she could sense he was working out. When he got up, she got up. She followed him to the small kitchen area and stood in the doorway, too large to fit through it, and watched him cook. He had no idea Yeti would post the letter. She posted it that night with a picture of the settlement on her moon. Wide flat land, pale sky, the kind of horizon that goes forever. The letter was in the post with no introduction, just her message above it and the image below, and the caption she wrote was 7 words. "He answered me. I wanted to share this." The galaxy read it over 2 days. Not the fast explosion of the earlier clips, not the 30 million in an afternoon. This was slower. It spread through personal messages, forwarded quietly from one person to another. Someone would read it and sit with it for a while and then send it to a friend. The friend would read it and send it to someone else. A teacher on a Kaylee colony world sent it to her students. A Durathi elder read it aloud at a community gathering, and someone there recorded that, and the recording spread too. A Shinari wildlife worker printed it out and pinned it to the wall of a rescue shelter on a planet where they took in injured fauna that nobody else wanted. Under it she wrote by hand, in her own language, "This is why we are here." Rin did not know about most of this for a long time. What he did know was that the letters kept coming. Not floods of them, not the unmanageable wave he had been quietly dreading, just a steady stream, one or two a day, from all kinds of species in all kinds of places. Someone whose bond creature had finally stopped biting after 6 years of trying the consistent routine. A young Brevian boy who had made friends with a stray dock animal that everyone else on his station had been chasing away for months. An elderly Kaylee woman who had raised birds her entire life and had never heard anyone describe what she did the way the book described it, and who wrote simply to say thank you for giving it a name. He answered all of them. He was slow about it, because cargo shifts were long and soul required attention, but he answered every one. On a quiet evening 3 weeks after Yeti's post, Rin went up to the observation deck on the top level of Orion 9. It was the end of his shift, and he was tired in the good way, the way you get tired when the day went well. Sol came with him. She always did. The observation deck was a long curved room with a full viewport along one wall, wide enough to see in every direction. Stars in every direction. The slow drift of 2 freighters departing on different vectors. The running lights of a passenger ship coming in from the outer lanes. Rin sat down against the viewport. Sol lay down beside him. She was so large now that her side was like a warm wall, and when she settled her wing it came down gently over his shoulder, not covering him, just present, the way she was always present. He could feel her breathing, deep and slow. He opened the current notebook, looked at the first page, which had today's date and Sol's name at the top, the way all his notebooks started now. Below it he had written the morning's notes. Her weight, her mood, what she had eaten, a note about the way she had paused in the cargo corridor today and looked at a window for a long time, watching a ship depart, which she had never done before. He wrote, curious about departures. We'll watch. He closed the notebook, put it in his pocket. Outside the viewport, the galaxy was very large and very quiet. Somewhere out on a pale sky moon, a sky ray was following a migration path it had chosen for reasons nobody would ever fully understand. Somewhere a child was sitting cross-legged on a floor, speaking softly, waiting for something frightened to decide that trust was possible. Somewhere an old woman was reading a letter aloud to birds that were already listening. None of them called it a method anymore. Most of them did not use any word for it at all. They just did it, the way you do something that has become so natural it stops needing a name. He had not meant to start anything. He had only meant to help one small, gold, frightened thing feel safe. The rest of the galaxy had simply been watching. Sol shifted beside him, a slow adjustment, and her wings settled a little warmer over his shoulder. Outside the stars burned steady and far away, and the freighters moved in silence toward wherever they were going. He stayed until the lights of the hub dimmed for the night cycle. Then he got up, and Sol got up with him, and they went home.